Hello and welcome to the Morning Scoop. This is your host, Joe Draime. This is the Daily Buckeye Show. We are here today to talk about the state of the Ohio State offense ahead of Saturday's scrimmage. It's going to be a big one for these guys. Get some things confirmed that we may already know, but let's dive in. Quarterback C.J. Stroud is obviously the guy. There's some things he needs to improve on going into this year, but he should be a Heisman Trophy contender. He should be an All-American, all that stuff. But as far as what I would like to see him really improve on, I would really like to see him improve against pressure when guys are really bearing down on him in the pocket. I want to see him stand tall and really deliver some good throws. I'm also looking for him to be more willing to give the defense, or to take what the defense is giving him in the run game. When the defense has to defend the quarterback scramble, that adds just a whole other dimension to what you have to defend, and it's a great way to equate numbers too. So, if he really starts doing that, it should give the offense that extra dimension that should really make them kind of undefendable. But the backup job is really the big point of emphasis throughout camp as far as competition goes in the room. I expect that to be pretty ongoing, throughout the year. I think, Kyle McCord probably has the inside track to being the number 2 guy for Notre Dame, but Devin Brown is so talented that this is going to be an ongoing battle all the way up until, hopefully spring football and into fall camp next year. So moving on to the running backs, it was a tough week this week. Losing Evan Pryor was a big blow to the room. They were really planning on getting him involved this year. He had looked great. He had had a great camp. And I was really hoping that they would use 3 running backs the way Georgia employed their 3 running backs during their national championship run. But unfortunately, we will not get to see Evan this year. But all of our good thoughts and vibes are being sent out to him, and we're hoping that he's going to be 100% and ready to go for 2023. Still, in spite of the loss, Ohio State's still in great shape with the running back room. Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, this is good of a 1-2 punch as there is in college football, and who knows, this year could prove to be one of the best that we've ever seen, in all honesty. As Zach Smith was talking about, on his show yesterday, you really need a pair and a spare in the running back room, and while they have the pair, they're still looking for the spare. And as far as that guy goes, it'll ultimately really come down to Dallin Hayden, the true freshman, or it could be, a walk-on guy, like Xavier Johnson or Caden Saunders, because they could be the ones that would really step in a pinch. But overall, the running back room is still in pretty good shape, in spite of the loss. Moving on to the receivers, obviously, one of the big strong points of the team. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the absolute clear number 1. He may even be the best player on the entire team. He might be the best player in college football, for all we know. So we don't really need to get into too much on him, but Marvin Harrison Jr., on the other hand, is coming on very strong like a hurricane over this offseason. He's been really building on that forward-moving momentum that he had from his Rose Bowl performance where he had 3 touchdowns and a number of big catches, and he's going to be just enjoy him while he's here is all I'll say. Emeka Egbuka might honestly be my favorite one. I love his build. I love how fast he is. I love his versatility. I love what he gives you in the return game. He's going to be one of the best kick returners they've had. It's really probably Ted Ginn Jr. And praying to God that they finally end their long streak of not returning a kickoff to the end zone, and he's the guy to do that. He's a guy that I would expect to really start to come on as a force in the more of the latter half of the year, while the other 2 kind of get the lion's share of the catches in the early going. Jaden Ballard's another one. He has to keep improving to become a complete wide receiver. He's not there yet right now, but he has an unbelievable tool in his toolbox. He can stretch the field and run vertical like no other guy on the team really can. It's just going to depend on if his hands develop and if he can develop enough to be running different types of routes too and attack defenders with his body language a little bit more. But still, if he develops over the course of the year, he could be very, very, very dangerous down the stretch. And, moving on to the tight ends. For the tight ends, it seems like Cade Stover and Mitch Rossi are really the two top guys, mainly because they're the best blockers, and Kevin Wilson almost said as much in his presser the other day. Stover is obviously the team captain. He's, the heart and soul of the offense in a lot of ways, not to the extent that C.J. Stroud is, but he's kind of a heartbeat guy. He has had to switch positions, several times since coming here, going between offense and defense, and the kid's just a really good football player. He's a great athlete. Everybody refers to him as maybe one of the best athletes on the team, if not the best athlete on the team. I know Kevin Wilson certainly expects big things, and he definitely said so as of the other day. And, as you get into the depth, Joe Royer seems to be really continuing to grow and improve. We'll see if he can crack the lineup as the year rolls on. That remains to be seen. I think he's a very, very good athlete, but he's more of a big receiver right now. He just has to mature a little bit, get a little bit bigger, learn to block effectively. But if he can do that, he could really, really figure in. On the bench with the young guys, you have Sam Hart and Bennett Christian, who are both very talented, but are still developing. They're still getting their bodies to where they need to be to play big boy college football at a really high level. And it's going to take some time. They're still probably a year or two away, even though they're loving the way they're progressing. Now, moving on to the offensive line, the staff definitely feels like they have their 4 legitimate starters right now. And that's headlined by Paris Johnson, obviously, who should really be a top 10 NFL draft pick when all is said and done. He has talent that we haven't seen at the tackle position in a really long time. Maybe Taylor Decker, maybe Orlando Pace, who knows. And DeJuan Jones is another one who is just absurdly talented, but he has to put it all together, play with more of a mean streak coming off the ball in the run game. But he's so big that as in pass pro, he's going to be a really hard guy to get around because his feet are quick as a hiccup too. At the guard spots, Donovan Jackson really seems to have grabbed a hold of one of them. He's a big old road grading guard who is just going to be an absolute monster on when they start adding in different gap schemes like counter and power. Watching him pull is going to be just a dream come true for any offensive line coach, and especially for Travion Henderson, since he's the one who gets to run behind him. And then Matt Jones and Enoch are the other two guys who are really vying for that other guard spot. And, that's going to come down to a battle between the two. I expect that to continue on. We could get more clarity on that this coming Saturday and how they, just depending on which one deals with the fire from the defense a little bit better. And in the case of the center spot, Luke Whippler has that that's locked down. He could be, he needs to develop a little bit more, but the staff really feels very strongly about him. They think he is, like Urban Meyer used to say, the apex of the offensive line. He's always making the right calls now. He was thrust into action last year with the whole, unfortunate Harry Miller situation, but he filled in admirably. There's room for improvement, but I think he laid a very solid foundation to have a great year. And then the other real position that's up for grabs on the offensive line, as far as that's concerned, is really the swing tackle position. That's really going to be, Josh Fryer and Zen, who are battling for that. The staff feels very, very good about both of them. They think that they can both be really good players here. It's just a matter of who seizes that opportunity. And again, the scrimmage is a great chance for these guys to earn some more meaningful reps. And ultimately, with the offensive line, it's just going to come down to what unit produces the best and who, which players do the combination of things, the best, really. And as far as the offensive scheme goes, I think we're going to see a lot more power and counter this year, way more gap schemes than years past, specifically last year where it was mostly just stretch zone. And I think that's going to be a very big welcome addition to the run game because that's going to give more versatility. You're going to get guys going vertical a little more, which they did not do very well last year because they didn't really do it all that often. And when you don't do things all that often, when time comes where it's 4th and 1 against Michigan and you have to go get 1 yard, that's tough to do when it's just not what you do all the time, when it's not the main philosophy on offense. So I really think that the run game is going to have a lot more versatility to it, and that should open up the pass game a little bit more in play action. It'd also help if they don't only run the football out of the pistol. It should be tailor-made for play action shots down the field, but I think that we're going to see that as the year goes on. And ultimately, like I said, the scrimmage is going to confirm a lot of what we already knew, but it's also going to provide an opportunity for a lot of these guys to really play and earn some more playing time, especially for guys who are really battling at different positions, like the guard spot, like the tight ends too. If Joe Royer can show that he's able to block Jack Sawyer, then you got to get him in the game, especially with his ability to catch the football. But with all that being said, thank you very much for listening. This was the Morning Scoop. We will be back tomorrow with the state of the defense, and we'll be talking more about some of the position battles there and really what we expect to see out of the Jim Knowles scheme, which has everybody excited. Definitely has me excited. I can't wait to see these guys fly around against Notre Dame. Anyway, this was the Morning Scoop, and thank you so much for listening.